My brain is fried, dude.
You're fried?
Fried.
You sound quite stuffy.
Too much. Yeah. Between the sickness going through this house, the high fever for like 3 days, and work, it's just I'm all tapped out, Nick. I just need this.
Yeah,
I need what we're about to do.
It's about as least peppy, I think, as you've ever sounded starting this podcast. You're just like, I'm just here tonight. He's doing it for the people. He's doing it for the PUDs.
It's for the people, dude. I show up, I perform. I punch the clock. I get my lunch pail. I show up and I just do the job.
You put on your overalls. You go into the mine.
I put on my pants the same as everybody else, one leg at a time.
Oh, it'd be awesome if you actually had like a punch card clock behind you.
Punching in. Josh is clocking in for the podcast. Let's do it.
Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Josh.
And this is the PUDs Podcast.
Clocking in. All right. Well, you already mentioned we had a fun Halloween together. So that was a lot of fun.
I didn't mention the Halloween.
Well, you mentioned. Oh, you mentioned it. Maybe not yet. You mentioned. Yeah.
Let's start over.
Sorry.
Let's start over. Let's save that for the main topic.
I'm gonna leave this in here because we were talking about Halloween before because it's just funny. But before we
thought
actually
about me
recording.
putting on my pants, dude. You're like, ooh.
Yeah, this is what. So literally, what happened is that Josh started saying funny stuff, and we were like, "Oh, we should start recording," because you were describing how beat down you are right now. So
yeah.
So shortly before that, we were talking about Halloween and how, unfortunately, a sickness rolled through right after Halloween, and that household, and you got jacked up.
Yeah, right after Halloween, I got like real sick. That Friday was like rough at work, and then Saturday I was completely out of commission. I think I spent like half of the day in bed because I just couldn't do anything. Just terrible fever, dude. The chills, the aches, the sinuses, all that good stuff. But I'm here. I show up. Like I said, I show up. I'm here to do that thing. I'm almost all the way through it. I think my ears finally stopped being like blocked up.
Oh, that's so annoying when they get blocked up and like you can't tell what people are saying.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's like the worst. And you're like, huh?
Yeah, that sucked. But now I feel bad because Jeremiah has it now, so it's gone through like everybody. So now Jeremiah has it, and he's like in the bath as we speak, like trying to like warm up.
Oh boy!
But he's gonna have a fever, so it's gonna be like all terrible afterwards. It's gonna suck for him. Poor guy. He'll learn. The same way I did, and my dad before me.
We're all here.
Yeah. Well, no, not all of us.
Well, no. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, poor guy. Poor Randy.
Yeah.
Not here. Man.
Dark jokes.
Yeah, terrible.
Dark just to start the way. Yeah.
Terrible.
Randy and Robert just not here anymore.
Not here anymore, poor guys.
Anyways.
R.I.P. to the great ones.
So anyways, so we had a lot of fun at your place in Tiverton on Halloween. Rylan had a blast. I know Jeremiah had a blast. Sawyer was an adorable Pikachu.
Yeah.
Mel
we posted up those.
I was gonna say she kept trying to light me on fire as Charmander.
Oh yeah, with a Charmander tail, dude.
Lighting Goofy on fire, not cool.
Yeah. No, we had a great time. We had the pics up. The pictures are up. Or should be up. If not, we'll post them again on the social media. But yeah, no, it was a great time. I like this little tradition that we have where you guys come to us and come trick or treat in our neighborhood. Not that you could do much trick or treat in your neighborhood, but
I mean, there's plenty of neighborhoods in Rehoboth, but we just go to see you guys.
I like hosting all holidays, so I like what we got going. Hopefully next year we can get more people. I'd like to get more and more people involved, so that way we can just.
Are we not enough for you?
Thing. No, we need it. We need to make this huge, dude. We need to make it a whole thing.
Just like 50
I want it to
people.
I want it to be like oppressively big. Like we're taking up whole sides of the streets.
Like
group.
People are like worried when they see us coming along. They're like, hide the candy. Shut off the lights.
Here they come.
No.
Put out the bad candy. Save the good candy for the rest of those kids.
Put out the Fig Newtons.
Fig Newton. Put out the baggies of pennies. Do you ever
All
do
that
that? You ever get pennies, dude?
I don't really remember getting pennies. No.
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 Do you ever do like trick or treat for UNICEF?
No.
Where you'd have to while you were trick or treating, you'd also ask for money. Like, hey, I know you're giving us this candy for free, but would you like to like donate to UNICEF and give me some money, and I'll bring it back to wherever.
Did you do this?
Oh yeah, for sure. Trick or treat for UNICEF.
That's so random.
Oh yeah, it's a thing. It's
You have
100%
a
a thing.
You have a checkered past, Josh. You have a checkered past. Just when I think I've heard,
Those were good cause.
just when I think that I've heard everything, from ice cream
I've done
trucks
so
to
much.
bootleg
I've partaken.
DVDs.
Yeah,
In
I've
a small
partaken in
town.
life, dude.
Yeah.
I've definitely partaken in life.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, great Halloween. Good times had by all. The kids definitely had a blast. Rylan did not want to leave the house, but
No, she did not.
we convinced her that she can come back and play some other time.
Yeah. It was so funny that I think her and Jeremiah were both so excited that they didn't want to eat like any dinner or like eat any pizza. It was just futile. And then like later I heard Jeremiah was like, I'm hungry, and we got home and Rylan was like, hungry. I'm like, yeah, well, it's like 9:30, so kind of need to go. Well, it wasn't that. I think it was like 8:30, 8:45.
Yeah.
I'm like, we need to go to bed.
Yeah. We finished at such a good time. It was like a perfect time.
Yeah.
I think we were in bed like ready to go to sleep by like 9. So it was like perfect.
I don't know.
Timing, dude.
I don't know what address that was in your neighborhood, but I did want to shout out that one house that had like those spectacular decorations,
Oh,
and they had like Beetlejuice playing like in their garage.
Oh yeah,
That was crazy.
That was the
and
best.
They had a giant like witch. Well, they had many statues. They didn't have one, but like they had like a Wicker Man like sort of thing in their front lawn. It's crazy, like 15 foot tall or something like that.
Yeah,
that was impressive.
That was the only house that Jeremiah wanted to make sure we made it to. We'll have to post a picture of him taking the picture with the giant statue they have.
Yeah, whatever.
That was the only house like we had to. He like wanted to get to, dude. And then we finally got there, and he was like nervous to go up the driveway because it was a big driveway. So
it was a long driveway.
I asked him, I'm like, "Are you scared?" He's like, "A little bit." And then I'm like, "Do you want me to play the theme song?" And he was like, "Yeah." So I put on the Pokemon like red and blue like intro song for the video game, and then he just put his chest out and started walking up there. He's like, "I got this."
He's like Ash Ketchum, real Ash Ketchum. He's going to catch a Geodude.
Yeah, we got up there, and then it was full size candy bars, and they said, "Just take what you want." And then he just kept taking like these full-size sour Airhead belt.
You noticed later how many he took? What did he take, like 4 or 5?
Yeah, he took like legitimately
Loaded up.
5.
Loaded up.
5 Airhead.
Like, I remember you just opened the bag when we got back and you were like, how many did you take? Like, I know they said take what you want, but like, that's a lot.
They also had the nips for the adults that none of you guys took, and then I took, and then I just felt like, I'm like, oh, I was the only one that took one, and I just
you felt judged.
Yeah, I felt judged, so I just put it in it's in my like closet. Like, damn.
I mean, it wouldn't have mattered. You could have partaken.
Nah. Probably wouldn't have helped with the cold.
Yeah, it's probably true.
But yeah, good times, man. A lot of fun. Love having you guys over, no matter what we're doing.
Thanks again for having us. The pizza was delicious.
Next year I'll cook, dude. Next year I'll do like a big stir fry.
That could be good. Yeah. Halloween stir fry.
I
think you should make an omelet.
A Halloween omelet. A homlet.
Omelet, dude. You can't go wrong.
Yeah, you love a good omelet, dude.
Little pumpkin breakfast
pumpkin
sausage.
Omelet.
People don't know the backstory around the omelet. We'll have to go into that one day.
I'm gonna leave them on a cliffhanger for that one.
Yeah,
let's get into the music moment, dude.
All right, man. Let's get into it.
Nick's music moment is brought to you by Roots Coffee Roasters. You can find Roots Coffee Roasters at rootscoffeeroasters.us. If you go log on to their website, you'll see they have the Legacy blend. They got the Colombia. They got the Guatemala. Any roast that you may need, they have over there at Roots Coffee Roasters. And if you use promo code PUDS10, you can get 10% off of your order. They'll grind the beans. They'll send you whole bean. They ship them across the country. So wherever you may be, whether in the Northeast or all the way out in sunny San Diego, they can send them to you. So find them, once again, at rootscoffeeroasters.us and use promo code PUDS10 for 10% off your order.
Excellent. So tonight's Nick's. Wow, I guess we got the stutters going on. The stutters.
I'm sorry, my alarm was going off on my wrist for some reason.
It's okay. I could see that you were distracted.
I haven't set an alarm in probably like 6 years, so I don't know why that happened.
Why was it on? Now I'm curious.
I think I might have hit something by accident.
Oh, okay, gotcha. So tonight's Nick's music moment, we have the album Alligator by The National that came out in 2005.
The National.
So this is the third studio album by The National. A little dated at this point, but an absolute classic in my opinion. And part of the reason that I started listening to this particular album again lately, I'm very familiar with it, listened to it many times. It had been a little while, I think, since I gave it a full listen. But The National has a new live album coming out on December 13th called Rome. And I have to look up the background of it. I'm assuming it was actually recorded at a live show in Rome, hence why it's called Rome, or maybe across a few live shows. But on that album, it looks, or at least as far as the tracks like they've released on Apple Music or Spotify, if you've already like download the album, they're doing that whole deal where like they release a couple tracks ahead of time. It seems like almost every week they've been dropping a few, but of those tracks that they have live on there, there's a couple that are off of Alligator. So it kind of got me listen to those tunes again. I guess I was playing it on the way home this weekend when I was driving back from Wachusett with Ryland. So like I said, fantastic album by The National. I think this is the first one where they actually had a couple radio singles, and probably first one to really draw some serious critical attention to sort of their songwriting and their musical style. Couple of the singles off of this album are Able, Secret Meeting, and Lit Up. Secret Meeting is like just an incredible song. Like when I think of this album, I just think of this song. Listened to it many times, and I still think there's enough going on that even after like 20 or 30 listens of maybe a song or this album fully through, I still think there's some meat to chew on and some new fun stuff to hear and listen for. So Alligator by The National, check it out.
Nice.
Do we have a Josh's jazzy music moment tonight?
Yeah, man. I figured I'd start contributing to the music moments a little bit, and kind of talk about some albums that I like. So,
excellent.
So tonight I'm going to bring to you my man Common and his 6th studio album, which is the album B, which was released on May 24th in 2005. Common, he's up there. He's not my favorite rapper, but he's up there. He's one of my favorite rappers. He's definitely more of a smooth, like storyteller style. Definitely more of a poet style rapper. And yeah, I really got into him, especially in the early 2000s. And this album B was one of my favorite albums. It was one of the ones that I would just listen to on repeat. Had it in like the 6 CD changer in my truck.
6 CD changer.
Yeah, driving to high school. You could fit 6 CDs in there, and yeah, it was definitely up there. This was one of them. Definitely had some of my favorite songs by him. It had the singles, The Corner, Go, and Testify. Those are 3 of the big ones from that album. But yeah, check him out, man. He's produced, I think that album was produced by Kanye West too, so there's a lot of that feel to it. Especially that early 2000s Kanye was huge. So yeah, check it out. Common B.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. I think it's super funny that we both picked albums from 2005.
Yeah.
Alligator.
Funny,
so Alligator and Common B. Check them out.
Let's do it. You ready?
Yeah, let's get into the main topic.
Let's do it, guys.
All right, so this weekend on Saturday. I was over at my mom's house celebrating a couple birthdays of my family. Yeah, Mama Claire. Shout out to Mama Claire, Mama Sidla.
Dude, hold on. Is one of them Ashley's? I definitely missed Ashley's birthday. I was dying. I was definitely out of it, dude.
Well, it was on Monday. It was on Monday, but
a couple. Happy birthday, Ashley.
Happy birthday to our lovely co-host, my wife, best friend, Ashley. You do a great job on the podcast.
I gotta send her a belated birthday text now.
Yeah, shame. Shame drop for that one.
Oh man.
Happy 2-day belated birthday.
Yeah,
almost 3.
I'll get to it. I'll get to it eventually.
But anyways, my mom kind of has my dad used to do it. My mom kind of continued the tradition. But so my aunt's birthday is actually Halloween, and then friend of the podcast Nate's birthday is also Halloween, being the 31st. Happy I should say it's the 31st, in case people don't know that Halloween does always fall on the 31st, which I hope you would, but you never know. I'm just gonna call it out. Ash's birthday is the 4th of November. Then my uncle's birthday is November 11th. So my dad would like have them over and always like do something. So Nate wasn't able to join us, but the rest of us went over. And my uncle Ken, who plays guitar and stuff, joined us, and we had a bunch of fun on Saturday. And the birthday festivities continued for Ash on Sunday. She actually went shopping with her mom and her sister Rachel, and they kind of did some shopping at, I believe, the Rentham outlets and stuff. So I basically was hanging out with Rylan all day, and since it looked like a really nice, cool, dry day, we decided to get out for a hike, which I know is probably shocking, but ended up going to a local mountain that I've been to a few times with Rylan, Wa-Wachusett. So I know Wa-Wachusett kind of came up in the Finding Phillip episode. It's probably come up sort of in the periphery, what I've mentioned where we've been hiking or where me and Josh have been hiking. For us in sort of this area, Wa-Wachusett is, I kind of joke that it's like sort of my home mountain. It's about an hour and 15-minute ride from where I live in Rehoboth now in southeastern Mass. So probably pretty similar for Josh as well. If you were to drive there, maybe like 10 minutes longer or something. When I lived in North Providence,
sleepy ride for me, dude. I don't know how you get there, but for me, it just feels like such like there's like nothing happening. It's just such a sleepy ride.
No, it's like it's pretty chill. I mean, from here, like I generally make my way over to 495, and we'll take that most of the way.
Yeah.
Until you get to like I think like 190, and kind of eventually some of the back roads to Wachusett. But it was really nice when we lived in North Providence. Probably when I was going there the most, we were only like probably an hour or a little less away from there because we could just like jet up 146. So it was a super easy ride. And I figured it was about time that we kind of give a little bit of a shout out and maybe an overview of this mountain that only stands at a mere 2,000 feet. So it's definitely not enormous. It is basically the highest standing sort of monadnock mountain in Massachusetts, east of the Connecticut River. So that's kind of a fun little fact. It's basically the highest sort of land that you're going to find. And it being significantly closer to me and Josh and me than New Hampshire, I found myself there a lot earlier in my hiking career and still continue to get back there now with Rylan and stuff. And I find it's a really good sort of training ground, and there's a really great trail network there, and figured we'd dive into it a little bit. So a little bit of background on Wa-Wachusett. It's basically in the towns of Princeton and Westminster in Worcester County. So basically the center sort of heart of Massachusetts. The mountain is named after the Native American term meaning near the mountain or mountain place. It's where Wachusett comes from, which definitely makes sense. It does have an automobile road that goes up to the summit, which is open generally spring to fall. So if you do want to get up there, or if you're with someone that maybe doesn't necessarily want to hike, it's kind of cool. You can maybe have them meet you at the summit and you can hike up yourself. We actually did that right before, I think it was several days before Rylan was born. And Ash actually got some like food and stuff, and I actually hiked up with Mike, Lori, and Wilkie and saw sunset up there, and then Ash Meadows. So that was kind of cool, but just kind of a nice option. You don't always have the option when you're like hiking up a mountain with a view to have like other people that are non-hikers join you. So it's kind of cool. The downside of that is it can be a zoo up there at certain times, but you kind of take that with the fact that there's a road that goes up it. So within Wachusett, there's a 17-mile trail system, and within that trail system is actually a trail called the Mid-State Trail that some people might be familiar with. The Mid-State Trail is a 92-mile trail that actually goes across central Massachusetts. So it goes from the Rhode Island border to the New Hampshire border. On the southern side in Rhode Island, it actually meets the North-South Trail, which will go all the way basically to the coast. Rhode Island North-South Trail goes north to south in Rhode Island. And then the north side of the Mid-State Trail that goes in New Hampshire goes, I believe it's the Pack-Monadnock Trail, right around where the border is in Mount Watatic. So the Mid-State Trail kind of crosses through that. So that's probably a pretty notable long distance trail, at least for Massachusetts. I don't believe there's really that many long distance trails in Massachusetts. That's probably one of the only ones other than like the AT that goes through it.
I think I might be wrong, and I'll correct myself in a later episode if I'm wrong. But I think friend of the podcast, Adam, when he ran,
he did.
Yeah, he did the Mid-State Trail.
Part of it, yeah. The end part of our friend Adam did some ultra races and stuff. I believe the race that he did went from almost the western border of Mass down to or maybe the central part of Mass down to Rhode Island, but it ended in the Mid-State Trail before he went into Rhode Island. For sure. I remember him mentioning that. I've done that end section too, but so that's kind of cool. Wachusett's probably one of the nicest parts of the Mid-State Trail, at least from what I've read and what I've actually done of it myself. So Wachusett is a glaciated monadnock. So basically it's a mountain that was shaped by the glaciers. It actually was much higher before glaciers raked it down to size, which is kind of the case with most of our mountains here in the Northeast.
What is a monadnock? I thought that was just the name of a mountain in New Hampshire.
So it is, but a monadnock is basically I forget where, I can look it up here. So it's an isolated rock, hill, knob, ridge, or small mountain that rises abruptly from gently sloping or virtually level surrounding plain. So it's basically a freestanding sort of hill with things around it. So Wachusett is that's one of the cool things, when you're on the summit, is you have really good views, literally 360-degree views around the area, and it's all just low-lying valleys and stuff around you.
Its own.
Yeah, it's got 1,000 feet of prominence, more or less. So a lot of people probably know Wachusett. I would say even more so than hiking. A lot of people you think of, you mentioned Wachusett around here. People think of the ski area and growing up skiing there. I learned to snowboard there, so that for sure it's probably more common to really know about it as a ski area than an actual hiking area. I think everybody thinks of those commercials and stuff that were on TV and still are on TV. So that's just a little bit of a background on the mountain. The other super interesting thing, or at least I nerd out a little bit as I was gonna say I'm a plant connoisseur, but that just sounds weird. But I'm into plants and gardening. A plant connoisseur.
You are a plant connoisseur.
You are a plant connoisseur. But on Wachusett, more or less above the 1,500 foot line, there's actually a old growth forest. So it's actually 200 acres too. I got some of the stats over here that I'm pulling up because I could not remember all this on my own. But an old growth forest is more or less a forest area that hasn't been touched for generations. So in the case of Wachusett, some of these trees are literally 150 to 300 plus years old, which is kind of incredible.
Wow.
The backstory behind that is that this goes for most of New England. Most of New England was cut down at some point. So most of the forests were cut down for farmland, was pretty commonality. So really there's not a lot of places where old growth forest exists. So this is actually the only place in Massachusetts that there's any forest that old east of the Connecticut River. So There's nothing that exists that's even close to that old. And the deal was most of the people that settled here were clearing all the basically the forest for farmland, because that's primarily what New England was farmland. And once they got to around the 1,500 foot line at Wachusett, it was very rugged, and it pretty much was more of an effort thing. They just figured we weren't going to clear it because it was just too rocky, too rugged up there. And that's more or less how this area of forest remained throughout all those hundreds of years at this point. So within that forest, there's all sorts of species of trees like yellow birch, eastern hemlock, pitch pine, shagbark hickory, eastern white pine, sugar maple, white ash, northern red oak, and it goes on with a few other different species. But these are ones that are common around New England, so that's not an incredible fact, but it is incredible where say on the Jack Frost Trail, there's hemlock trees that are probably upwards of 100 plus years old, and these things are just enormous. And you really notice it around here too, because like we just don't have trees that old everywhere. Like you think of most trees in your yard, at least like say like southeastern Mass area, like most of them are probably really only like 70, 80 years old, the majority of them that you see. Because again, it was all, especially like somewhere like Rehoboth or Tiverton, it was all cleared for farmland at one point.
Right.
Like probably like 80, 90% of it was cleared. So as far as the trail system goes, I figured I'd give sort of a little rundown on some of the more challenging trails, and I believe this kind of harkens back pretty well to the Phil Karsha episode if you listen to. But like he was saying, like when people would be like, "Oh, you just hiked Wachusett," and they kind of look at you like that's like an easy thing, but you can consider making a much bigger loop of Wachusett and not just going over the summit once. Like if you basically summit Wachusett from one side, you're looking at around 1,000 feet of gain. But there are really quite a combination of trails and loops that you can make within the trail system. So you can make a very challenging loop if you want to. I think when I went up with Rylan like this past Sunday rather, we just did maybe like a 1,200, 1,300 foot loop, which isn't too crazy. But I've gone there like for the Taylor James Steves challenge last year and did a day where I did like almost 5,000 feet. So just because it's a small mountain, like don't think that it doesn't have rugged terrain and that you can't make a very White Mountain-esque loop hike on it. There's some definitely areas of rugged trail, rocky, scrambly. There's some areas of it that are really easy and really mellow, which I think is a cool thing. Like it's a great place. Like I've been there with Josh several times, and you can kind of find a more friendly loop. If you want to just go for some of these less traveled trails, you can kind of find that there too. I think considering how big the reservation is in the mountain, it feels much bigger, I think, than it actually is at times. Like you really do get a vibe. Like you wouldn't think you're in like, I don't know what, like probably a 30-minute ride from Worcester, which is like a pretty big city. Like you just really feel like you're away from everything.
It's very true. That's a very true point. It does feel like, because Worcester's this huge, like almost Boston-esque, like
it's got all its suburbs around it too. So it's not even like it's just the city; it's like a sprawl.
Right. So when you really get to Wachusett, it's like literally the woods. It reminds me of every trailhead like that I ever took when I did Boy Scouts, things like that. Like it's just like it's like any other mountain you've ever been to, except it's right outside. You can hit a CVS like 2 minutes away.
You're definitely not that far from quote unquote civilization. And there's many directions you can kind of get there. Like I'd imagine even if you're in northern Connecticut, or if you're in where like we live in southeastern Mass, or if you're in Boston, like you can go shoot down the Mass Turnpike. Like it's pretty accessible. And again, I'm sure that's a contributing factor to why the ski area has done so well over the years.
Oh, for sure.
So on the route that, or I should say the route that Rylan and I did on Saturday, I'll just kind of outline. I think this is probably like the loop that I'll take people on the most too, if I'm with people, if I'm not just going out like by myself as much. If you want a really pretty loop, especially this time of year when the leaves drop, I highly recommend parking at the Echo Lake trailhead off Westminster Road. From there, you can make your way up to Echo Lake, which is more of a pond, really. It's not enormous. It's not like a giant Echo Lake like in New Hampshire or something like that, but it's still really pretty. You can sort of see the ridgeline leading up to Wachusett. After we pass Echo Lake, we make our way up the High Meadow Trail to the junction with the Jack Frost Trail. And from there, you pass through some really nice old growth hemlock forest. There's a really pretty section right in there. That's pretty sick. It feels like you're in like a Lord of the Rings kind of deal. It's definitely a vibe. There's just a bunch of beds of needles and stuff, and very, very pretty and scenic considering you're sort of in the woods. And from there, usually I'll cut over to Lower Link Trail, kind of shortly after the junction of Jack Frost Trail and Mountain House. And then you'll actually go down a little bit on Link Trail, and then you head up Harrington Trail. And Harrington Trail, in particular, this section of it is probably the most scrambly, rocky section that you're going to find on the mountain. I think it's very comparable to White Mountain trails. Some of it's probably even a little bit more rugged than in quote unquote sort of easy trail in the White Mountains. You'll definitely have a couple places where you're going to be using your hands and feet. And one of the better views off the mountain, which there used to be a sign for it, called Josty's Vista, exists like maybe I'd say like a maybe like a quarter mile, not even, from where you actually cross the road on your way up to the summit on Harrington. But this is a fantastic viewpoint that overlooks more or less west southwest, and you can kind of see out to the northwest a little bit, kind of if you're poking around. But it's really pretty. You can actually make out like Greylock and some of the Massachusetts mountains. I believe you can see Killington sort of off to your far right. And usually there's like nobody there. A lot of people just pass this spot on the trail, especially now that there's no sign there. There was a picnic table there. It is no longer there. It hasn't been there for probably 2 or 3 years. I don't know what the deal is with that. Maybe it's vandalism or something, but really nice spot. One of the best viewpoints on the mountain, not necessarily called out on any of the trail maps, including the Mass DCR trail map that I'm looking at right now, referencing. So did want to call that out. After you check out that vista, you can head further up Harrington and you end up crossing one of the roads that ascends the mountain, one of those auto roads. And you more or less just keep following that right up to the summit. So that's it. And then after you hang out there for a while, I'll usually descend going back down Mountain House Trail, and then I'll hit Jack Frost and sort of retrace your steps on the way down. High Meadow Trail has an area of sugar maples, and when the leaves drop, you can kind of see out to all that surrounding sort of farmland and valleys. To me, it has just a quintessential New England vibe. And like I said, it's a pretty foliage hike if you get up there in the fall at the right time. But I honestly like hiking Wachusett more in the winter in sort of November, December timeframe after all the leaves have dropped. Because it is that freestanding Monadnock, you just have really good views through the trees, especially considering it's a mountain that's only 2,000 feet. And it's much closer to get to than New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So that's sort of my standard loop that I'll suggest to people. That'll get you around 1,000 feet of gain, and it'll get you kind of on my favorite side of the mountain. Now there's a bunch of different options to hit the summit. If you're heading from the ski area, you kind of can head up Balanced Rock Trail to Old Indian. I personally just don't like the northern side of the mountain as much. One being that if you do it when the ski resort's open on Old Indian, part of it you have to actually cross the ski trail. So it can be a little bit hazardous trying to cross a ski trail when you have skiers flying by you going like 30 miles an hour. It's not the most fun thing. I've done it before. It felt a little bit like Frogger with me on a ski trail. Yeah. So not the most fun thing. I think it's more common. People in the winter probably check out more the southern side, like where I was talking about approaching from Echo Lake. But I'm not as big of a fan. I know it's a popular kind of way to hit the summit, but I wouldn't personally recommend it. That being said, I've done all these trails, so I'm able to comment on pretty much any side of Wachusett.
You have the authority on trails in Wachusett.
Yes, I'm the only authority. No,
the authority.
Yeah.
All trails go through Nick and Wachusett.
Yeah. If you are seeking to kind of get there and like hit like a bigger day, the trails that are going to be sort of the most bang for your buck as far as being steep and getting you a good amount of elevation gain in a short amount of time. So I already mentioned Harrington. I was referencing sort of the upper part of it. Should probably suggest to this people, I'll leave a link to the actual PDF trail map as well in the notes so that people can maybe bring this up in case you're curious looking at it, and kind of see what we're talking about. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with Wachusett that are going to be listening to this as well. But Harrington, if you follow the whole thing, and Harrington actually is a good chunk of the Mid-State Trail portion that crosses through Wachusett. But Harrington will actually take you 750 feet in 1.4 miles one way. So not too bad. I mean, you're getting into the ballpark of 1,000 feet at about 1.4. And a lot of it's really mellow. That top section, like I said, I would guess the top section does probably 400 or 500 feet in less than half a mile. And most of it's kind of more meandering, a little bit more gradual. That upper section just is a little bit of a butt kicker. And honestly, I've taken a few people there that had hiked in New Hampshire and hadn't hiked at Wachusett, and we got there and they're like, oh, this is like pretty legit. And it's like, it kind of takes you by surprise a little bit. There is rugged terrain other places than New Hampshire. So Mountain House Trail, which is the one that Philip called out as being the one that he did 39 times, I believe. So he ascended Wachusett 39 times from doing this trail, which means he actually went up there 78 times out and back on Mountain House. So Mountain House will take you up 740 feet in 0.9 miles. So that's pretty steep. I mean, you can kind of figure just looking at that. Mountain House is more on the eastern side of the mountain. Again, it has its own trailhead, or actually, now that I'm looking at it, it's more like the southeastern side of the mountain. But that's another one with 2 or 3 really steep sections. I think and agree with Philip when he was on. He was saying it has some of the most rugged terrain and sort of the most difficult terrain to sort of traverse on Wachusett. I think that is very much true. Having done all the trails on here, it's got a lot of interesting sort of mixed ledge and rock. And frankly, footing that would be, again, right at home in the White Mountains. You'd think you were pretty much up in New Hampshire hiking in the woods. One thing I do really like about Mountain House is the bottom of it has another section that has to be old growth forest that's just really open with these like huge maple and birch trees. Very, very pretty. So I mentioned Old Indian already. Old Indian, because it is a full trail off sort of the northern side, it does have a good bit of elevation gain. So that one you're getting 750 and 1.2. Again, not my favorite, but it is a nice trail. It's not too bad. Now, the one that probably can kick your butt the most, at least if you're trying to just go up pretty steeply, it does have really good footing, is Pine Hill Trail. So this is more on the eastern side of the mountain, and this goes up 600 feet in 0.5 miles, so in half a mile. So that's pretty steep. The footing on it has improved considerably in the last few years. It seems like I believe it's the Worcester AMC chapter has been doing a lot of work up there. So it's more or less a staircase. That being said, it's a quite steep ascent up a staircase.
It's a steep set of stairs.
Yeah, it's quite steep. I've done it with Rylan on my back before, and it is definitely a workout. So if you're kind of looking to get your elevation gain in, I won't go into like every possible combination, but you can find a map and you can sort of link these trails together. I think if you kind of end up starting even like at Echo Lake and you make your way over to Pine Hill and then kind of double back down and go to Harrington, you can use the roads too if you want to, but you can easily get a 2,000 plus foot day in here and really not a lot of mileage, which I think is really cool. And did want to call out that the trail system is very, very well marked. At no point are you going to be like, where the heck am I? I can't find it. There's plenty of blazes. I would say maybe too many blazes in certain sections, actually, according to what I've learned about blazing. When you like turn in front of you, behind you, and you can see like 3 blazes in each direction. But that's definitely a plus. It's a great place, I think, if you want to get into hiking or you're kind of curious and you maybe want to like sort of graduate from doing maybe like some local neighborhood trails and you want to actually get something that's a mountain feel. This mountain will give it to you. I've done a significant amount of hiking in the winter here, and I know before Ash and I really got ready to go up and maybe bag like a 4,000 footer in the winter, we absolutely went to Wachusett and tested our gear out. It's full up like you're going to be using snowshoes if you're getting there right after a storm. A lot of times the locals will get out, but you'll end up using micro spikes in the winter here. Again, it's central Mass, so it's a little bit cooler than obviously where we are, and it is 2,000 feet. So there is a significant temperature difference a lot of times, especially in the winter, between the base and the summit. Even though you've got that low-lying summit, it is completely exposed to the winds and the elements. I guess now is probably a good time to talk about sort of the summit. So the summit is more or less a 360-degree open spot. It's kind of more of a hump. It's not like it's craggy or anything like that. But if you are moving around and kind of just walking around a bit, you really can get fantastic views in every direction. To the west, you've got sort of the Berkshires, and you can see kind of looking northwest towards Vermont. Like when Rylan and I were there on Sunday, the weather was super clear, so we had great visibility. I could see Greylock in Massachusetts. I could see Killington, Vermont. We could see you have Mount Monadnock that Josh was talking about earlier in New Hampshire. That's
Done
really
that one.
That's
check it.
Probably one of the best. I would think the best views you're gonna get of Monadnock anywhere is actually from Wachusett, especially if you go down and walk down to sort of where the chairlift is. I'll have to share some pictures.
The summit of Wachusett is where that big observation tower thing is?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a nice little platform, and it's cool.
There's like a goldfish pond up there too, right?
There is, which is actually closed right now with a fence around it. So I don't know if there were supposed to be goldfish or whatever in there, but it seems to be
maybe
closed
because
right
it's
now.
probably cold, dude. It's probably they don't want the goldfish to freeze.
I mean, they live up there. I'm sure once it freezes over, they're probably fine.
What?
But, yeah, I don't know. They were there. Me and Rylan poked around a little bit because she remembered that there were fish up there, which was funny. She's like, "Go see the fishies."
Somebody's messing with the fish.
Yeah, I don't know. Someone's messing with the fish up there, I guess.
Bathroom up there too.
Yeah, you've got a bathroom up there and the whole deal. And there's some radio towers and things like that too. The observation tower, I'm glad you brought that up. So on the deck that you can walk up now, they actually have nice little placards that call out sort of all these different things you're looking at with little pictures. You can see Mount Washington on a super clear day for sure, and see the White Mountains from Monadnock. And really cool too, you can actually see Boston to your east, which is pretty neat on a clear. Nice. And actually, it doesn't even really need to be that clear because you're really not that far away. But you can, if you think you see skyscrapers on the distance, then you're absolutely looking at Boston. So that's pretty cool. It got great views all around. Not one of my favorite summits up there. I mean, I've spent plenty of time up there. I kind of tend to like the more craggy summits. The thing that is nice about it is there's just a ton of room up there, though. There's plenty of room to like find a spot to pop a squat and like have some lunch.
That summit is far too developed for you, dude. There's too much development up there.
I don't know about the development. I meant more from a view perspective. It'd be nicer if it was like craggier, but there's definitely been times up there when I've been up there and I'm like, there's way too many people, and I'll go like down to Josty's Vista or like something like that and like hang out. There wasn't a ton of people up there when Winter Island and I were up there. We were able to get a nice little spot, and it was kind of cool. I took her out for a bit, and I was mentioning earlier the view of Monadnock from the top of the chairlift, but you can just walk down, basically start down Old Indian Trail to the very top chairlift at Wachusett, the quad that they have. And you can sort of look out from the ski trails where you can probably get some really interesting views. You can see Wachusett, sort of the pond. I'm not sure that's not called Wachusett Reservoir, but the pond that sort of basically provides all the water for the ski resort. You can like look down to that, and you can see Monadnock, and you're not supposed to hike down the ski trails. I'm going to call that out, but you can if you really desire to. And I've done it before. It will beat up your legs a little bit, but you get some really interesting views, depending which way you choose to go down.
Naughty.
Yeah, I'm guilty. I know it's a liability.
All trails go through Nick.
Cool. So I think we covered a pretty good bit of what I did want to mention about Wachusett.
I'll say something about Wachusett, Nick. Am I allowed to talk about Wachusett? I know that all trails go through Nick, so I gotta talk.
You can absolutely touch upon Wachusett, having hiked it several times with me.
I think I am. I don't think I would consider myself a hiker. I 100% think I consider myself more of an explorer than a hiker. I think I enjoy like when we do hikes here in Tiverton, I think I enjoy like more of like we're on the trail, but I enjoy like exploring in the woods, like checking out different crap that's happening in the woods, like the different animals that are out there and stuff like that. And Wachusett to me is like a very good balance of a little bit of woods exploring. There's definitely some like, I don't want to call it an open trail, but more of a, I don't know, abstract like trail at some points where it's like you're not just walking on a herd path. You're kind of like you're kind of like walking through the woods on some big rocks, and you can see different animals and foliage and different fungi and things like that. And so I appreciate the fact that it's a good balance of what like a New Hampshire mountain climbing hike would look like and what I enjoy of like just taking a walk through the woods, if that makes sense.
No, that was well described. It definitely is, like, to your point, it's developed, but you feel like you're definitely just like, if you're not someone who likes to feel like you're completely like, maybe you're newer to hiking and you want to feel like, oh, I'm not completely 3 miles in the woods by myself.
Right.
Just with a trail, it feels like kind of a security blanket almost, because it is developed and there's going to be people at the top, and you're not going to be you might be by yourself for a little bit, depending what time of day you go and when you go, as far as time of year and stuff. But there's like other people that are going to be around.
Like you said before too, there's that meadow where I've never hiked a mountain in New Hampshire and just sprung up on this like giant meadow.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's
where it was actually High Meadow actually has an apple orchard on it too.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
And you brought up a really good thing that I did want to mention is that this area of Massachusetts has basically a living moose population, which probably a lot of people don't know that there's moose in Mass, but they do exist at Wachusett. There's also black bear. I've actually crossed someone before that saw a black bear shortly before me and my dad were coming up a trail in High Meadow in that apple orchard, because the black bears will actually eat the apples as they're rotting and falling off the trees.
Yeah.
So it's a great taste of nature. I mean, you might get lucky and see a moose if you're there in the mornings or kind of at dusk. It's a neat place. I did want to mention, just you kind of were jogging my memory on stuff when you're talking about animals in High Meadow.
That is what I'm here for, brother.
I know.
That's what I'm here for.
Well, you're doing a hell of a job, Josh. You're doing a hell of a job. Hell of a job, as my late grandfather would say. Doing a hell of a job. But one of my favorite, I mentioned the old growth area of Jack Frost that sort of is the section after the junction with High Meadow. But another very steep, rugged area of trail is Jack Frost Trail. After you sort of cross, let me look where that actually begins over here. So where you hit Jack Frost off of Administration Road and off the Lower Link Trail, and even if you're looking at a topography map, you can see pretty clearly, but it's very flat and it walks through some like mountain laurel patches, and I think they're mountain laurel. I don't think they're wild rhododendron, but a bunch of flowers. If you're in the spring, this is a great spot to check out. But it hits a very rugged section. So Jack Frost climbs 660 feet in 0.7 miles, which is pretty steep. But again, it's a little misleading because probably about half of this elevation gain is in maybe a quarter mile stretch. It goes up very steeply. Again, New Hampshire-esque trail, very bouldery and rocky, and you will be scrambling more or less on a hillside with a drop off next to you.
If that's what you're into.
Yeah, if that's what you're into. And this spot for sure can be a little hairy in the winter if it's icy, or if you need to break trail up there, which I've done both. And it can be a little interesting. But that being said, I think it's just with the trees and everything else, I love that section of trail. So that's sort of a high level summary on Wachusett. If anybody has questions or recommendations for loops or anything like that, I can do that. And help you out if you want to message us on an Instagram.
Goes through Nick.
All trails go through me. And one other fun story I did want to shout out really quick was there was a while back now. I'm not even sure what year it was. It was probably like 2017 or 2018. But there was a day where Mike Cordero of the Himalayas podcast episode we did. We actually did like a 17-mile day, more or less, on the Mid-State Trail from the Audubon Society south of Wachusett all the way to Crow Hill Ledges in the Leominster State Forest. And we actually rocked like 4,500 feet of gain or something. And we were joking all day that like you can't do that in Massachusetts. But again, you gotta look at like the terrain and the going up and down. Like I think a lot of people just think of mountains as, again, just going up them. You get to the summit, you come back down. But if you want to make like a long day out of trail systems, even here in central Massachusetts, again, 30 minutes from Worcester, you can get a heck of a hiking day in if you want to sort of look at a map and figure out sort of your gains and where you want to go. And you will very much feel like you're kind of like, to Josh's point, like in sort of the New England countryside mixed with a little bit of New Hampshire. I think that's sort of a good way. Not that New Hampshire is New England, but I think people know what I'm saying, where it's, you got that farmland meets sort of this mountain that's sort of sticking up in the middle of nowhere, more or less.
Right.
So yeah,
man,
that
might have been the most in-depth summary of Wachusett that anybody's ever given, Nick, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully it's useful to some people. It's a mountain I'm really passionate about. I always end up coming back here. I still probably hike it, I'm sure, like a dozen times or so every year. It's easy to get to when you don't want to drive up north, or maybe when you just can't. Spectacular sunset spot, spectacular sunrise spot if you're getting up for that. Great trail system. And yeah, man, I'd have to guess I've probably summited and been here over 100 times over the past, I don't know, since like 2015 or so. And
that's crazy.
It just keeps on giving, and I'm still enjoying it. I don't think
I've done anything 100 times since 2015.
I'm sure you've done something. You breathed 100 times.
Yeah, all right. We'll set the bar there.
Oh man.
Let's get into the descent.
Let's do it. All right, so tonight's descent is brought to you by Adventuristic Clothing. Adventuristic Clothing is accompanied by our good friend Lori, and she's running the whole show over there. She does all the design herself. She's run the whole business by herself, and all her designs are inspired by nature. She's got some really cool stuff that just dropped November 1st in the winter collection. And we highly encourage you all to check it out. And when you do, you can use code PUDSPOD, PUDS, over at adventuristic.com, adventuristic.com. Buy some clothes, get a nice discount, and you'll get free shipping and 20% off after you use that. So pretty awesome.
That's awesome. The winter collection's looking fierce, baby.
It is looking fierce. It's looking good. Doing a great job, Lori.
Zesty.
Zesty?
Zesty.
Zesty
is a thing right now.
Zesty.
You'll end up, yeah, you got to get your finger on the pulse of social media, dude. You'll get there.
I'm good.
You'll get there.
I still use Fantastic. I'm okay.
That's fantastic.
That's stellar. Super. Okay. Anyways, what you been up to? We've been watching anything new?
Not anything new to me, but I'm rewatching. I don't know if this was a staple for you when you were a child. Maybe if it was just in my household, but Dragon Ball Z.
It was not a staple, but I'm aware of its popularity.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I am rewatching Dragon Ball Z from like the beginning, and Jeremiah's like hopped on board, dude, and I'm like pumped because he loves it, and that means a lot to me.
Oh, that's cool, man. It must be nice because when that came out, what were we? Probably like, was it like 2000, something like that?
Yeah,
so
I just remember it being on Toonami.
Yeah,
it was like on Toonami, like after school, like in elementary school. So I was probably like 8 when I really started watching it. So
it's cool to be able to share those things with your kids that like you watched when you were a kid.
And with my little cold, I sound like the narrator, so it's been like really good. On this episode of Dragon Ball Z, Goku fights Frieza for 3 hours. Check it next time on Dragon Ball Z.
That was good. That was good. You should apply for a job doing that.
I should do.
Make some money. Make some nice side money.
I should. So yeah, we've been watching that, enjoying that together. So it's been really good.
Cool, man. Cool.
Yeah. How about you?
So I've actually got some material, and I wrote it down because I feel like whenever we get to this segment, my brain just goes completely blank. So I'm just fully on the Netflix documentary train again.
Oh, yeah. Oh no, you're stuck in the documentary loop, dude.
I love being in documentary loops. Like I love it. So the first one that I checked out, I think kind of just later last week and into the weekend, was called Get Gotti. So it's all about the infamous mob boss John Gotti.
Yeah, John Gotti. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. I didn't know a lot about it. It's just funny how it's like, I thought of one thing that they called out too is he was actually ended up on like the cover of Time, I think, or something at one point, or some prestigious magazine. And it just made me, it harkened back to like when they put the Tsarnaev guy basically on like Rolling Stone. But it just was like, it just pointed to the fact that I guess the media's just been doing weird, crazy stuff like that forever, dude. And regardless of people's moral status. But that was one thing that I don't know, it just caught me, and I'm like, oh, that was going on even back then in like the 80s and 90s. But it was very interesting. I thought it was very cool when they were talking about how they were like wiretapping and like getting into like the club and stuff they used to meet at. Back then, even the FBI was doing stuff like they mentioned. They basically like messed up one of their phone lines, and as soon as basically like the mob folks or people that were running the club actually called to get the phone line repaired from New York, I guess it was like New York phone systems or something at that point. Like they literally jacked the call and basically had an operative go in as a phone repairman and actually bug the place and take pictures and stuff, which to me is just and then the guy was joking too, like, so the mob guy's like, oh, great job, you got this done fast, and he gave him like $200 in cash. So it was like, so me and the guys went out for pizza and beer that day, and it was a good day. Like we celebrated getting some bugs and some wiretaps in there.
That's great.
So that was really cool. I think if you're into, I wouldn't say I'm like super into the mafia stuff, but like it's interesting to me. I like the non-fictional stuff because I think a lot of it's just crazier than even some of the fantasy things or whatever you can read, and the stuff that this guy was getting away with. And they got into depth about sort of the court trials and what they kept trying to get him on. He was just so unhinged and really brazen that like that's kind of what caught up to him, which is funny. And he was really one of the first guys, I should say, him and his ruling of like sort of the New York Mafia was one of the first, I guess, cases that really presented the whole structure of the organization of La Cosa Nostra and stuff like that. So wow. I didn't realize that too. And that was purely because when they'd meet, like he had everybody, he'd mention people's names and they started to put things together, the hierarchy of who was who and who respected who and stuff. So it was kind of a groundbreaking thing in terms of, I guess, criminal investigations into like sort of organized crime and gangs and things of that nature. So Get Gotti, I got sucked right into that one.
Out, dude.
And the next one that was quite a bit shorter that I checked out was the 30 for 30 on Lance Armstrong. So actually not a Netflix doc. It's an ESPN documentary that Netflix is hosting, but yeah, it was all on the doping scandal and what he was doing. And he is, I don't know. It's funny after you watch it. It's like, I think he's an interesting figure because he's very polarizing. Like, it's like admirable in certain ways, like how he pushed himself. And also like they go into like everybody was doping in that era and in the 80s, but it's kind of despicable when like so many people were looking up to him because he beat cancer. And I didn't realize too how close he was. Really, like they thought he was going to die. Like when he had like stage 4 testicular cancer, and it spread to his lungs. And I guess he found out when he started coughing up blood basically. And he just, I ended up beating it, which was kind of wild. But then going back and winning the Tour de France and like doing all these things, winning the Tour de France 7 times actually in total in his career, and doing it while vehemently denying the entire time that he was never doping when there were people getting around him getting caught for doping. And he was talking about too some of these drugs back then too, if you weren't taking them correctly, they'd kill you. And I'm sure, I shouldn't say back then, I'm sure a lot of them still exist and people still use them. But it was wild. And like it's just amazing how like they're asking him, like, how would you look yourself in the mirror every day? And he's like, I had no problem doing that. And he's like, I know that sounds like messed up basically, but he's like, because he's like, it became so normal for me to lie about it every single day to everybody that I just like, I had no problem doing it.
And it's a win it.
And needless to say, I think as everybody knows how the story goes, it did catch up with him and people did find out. And he got sued by like, at one point they're like, so how much did you get sued for? And by anybody, by how many people? He's like, it's easier to ask me how many people didn't sue me that I was affiliated with, because pretty much everybody sued him, including the United States of America for basically lying under testimony. So, it was interesting, man. I thought it was definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, that's a good story, dude. The fall from glory that guy had was like remarkable.
Oh, it's insane. Like, to me, it'd be like if LeBron James was caught doping or something like right now. It'd be akin to like that.
I'm talking everybody, dude, in like middle school had like the Live Strong bracelets.
Yeah, they talked about those too. I never knew the whole story behind those, but
the yellow Lance Armstrong Live Strong bracelets, dude. Yep. Like those are like, oh man, everybody had those. And then fall from grace, dude.
Yeah, again, adds to that polarization of like his organization still exists and stuff, and they've done a lot of work for cancer, but like as soon as all that came out, they're like, you need to leave. Like, we're cutting. I know you. It's weird because he started it, but they're like, no, like, you need to you're done. Like, get out.
You gotta go.
Yeah,
buddy.
You gotta go.
Oh man.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Yeah. I would check it out.
Nice, man. You ready to get into a hypothetical?
You know I am.
Let's do it. All right, Nick.
Josh.
You ready?
I'm ready.
So you are placed in the unenviable position of having to compete for the right to stay alive. You will be matched against a person of your own gender in a series of 5 events. An 800-meter run, a game of Scrabble, a 3-round boxing match, a debate over the legalization of late-term abortion, scored and officiated by reputable collegiate judges, and the math portion of the SAT. In order to survive, you must win at least 3 of these events. Your opponent will be playing for his or her life as well. However, you kind of get to pick your opponent. You either A, compete against a person selected at random, or B, compete against someone who is exactly like you. If selected at random, the individual could be any age or skill level. He or she might be an infant with Down syndrome, but this person might also be an academic All-American linebacker from Notre Dame. If you pick the average human, he or she will be precisely your age and will have an identical level of education. The person will be a perfect cross-section of your particular demographic. He or she will be of average height and of average weight with a standard IQ and the most normative life experience imaginable. So whom do you select? Or perhaps more accurately, do you feel that you are better than an average version of yourself?
So either a random person or an average version of myself?
Yep, so an average version of yourself or a random person that could be anybody, any age, anything. And then you have to win at least 3 events. So it would be an 800-meter run, a game of Scrabble, a 3-round boxing match, a debate over the legalization of late-term abortion scored by college judges, or the math portion of the SATs.
I think so. I don't know. I think probably what you're going to say. Was there another part of the question?
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I mean, if it's an average version of yourself, I think I'd have to pick the average version of myself.
Yeah.
Because they're not saying it's like they make it sound like it's a summation of that person. Like, what if my IQ is like higher or lower than a normal IQ that they are? You know what I mean? I mean, I think I'd pick that
average standard IQ. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because like
most normative life experience imaginable.
Yeah, I mean, I think that probably is the most logical thing to pick.
Yeah.
Considering I'm fighting for my life.
Yeah.
The other one, I understand you could end up with like, again, someone that wouldn't be able to perform that well, but on that other hand, you could perform against someone that's just amazing athletically or something. So I just think it makes more sense. Like, at least you know what you're getting.
Well, so which of the 5 events do you pick to do?
Oh, we had to pick the events too.
You have to,
probably
you have to win 3.
Probably
which 3 do you think that you could win? I guess.
I think the 800-meter run, probably a boxing match, and the math on the SATs.
Oh yeah,
I think that'd be what I pick. What were the other 2?
Scrabble.
Actually, scratch that. I'd probably do 800-meter run, Scrabble, and the math SAT portion.
Nice.
I played a lot of Scrabble growing up.
Do a lot of Scrabble.
A lot of Scrabble.
I think I would do the average version of yourself. I think I'm doing Scrabble, boxing, and I'm gonna do the debate because I just think I'm so good at debating.
Yeah, I'm not even gonna argue with you. I think that's a good decision.
You can't debate it.
No, I think that's good. I think you'd just be annoying. You'd annoy the other person.
I think I would just win. I'd walk away. I'd walk away.
Perfect.
The victor, dude.
I agree.
Oh man.
Sewed up.
Good stuff, dude.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. I like how some of them you have to like think about a little bit, and some of them are just completely off the wall bonkers.
Yeah, you really gotta think. I think I've had way more life experience than a normal person too, so I think that'll help in a lot of like Scrabble, and I've boxed before, so I have boxing experience.
Trick-or-treated for UNICEF.
Yeah, definitely trick-or-treated for UNICEF, dude. I don't know how that turned out. I don't know if we helped UNICEF at all. I don't even think UNICEF is a thing anymore. So
someone needed some extra change.
Yeah. So, yeah, good stuff, man.
Cool.
All right. So Next time on Dragon Ball Z.
Oh man. You've cracked yourself right on up there.
That was good.
That was
next time on the PUDs Podcast.
Yeah, what do we got? We ordered fresh stickers. They're coming in tomorrow.
Fresh stickers.
They're coming in tomorrow. We got some nice matte ones and we got some holographic ones as well. So we'll be breaking those out. Probably I'm assuming sending screenshots, stuff. We'll figure out what we want to do exactly. Oh, I did want to mention too that I know a good chunk of these people are listeners. That sounds so unkind. You're not just people. You're listening to us right now.
People. You're not just these people.
Yeah,
you're our people. You're our people.
Our people. But I know many people that listen to this podcast are also familiar with Slasher Podcast, and we are actually both going to be attending the Reckless event on November 16th. November 16th. We will both be there. So we'll be hanging out
rarity.
And enjoying
this is a
the
rarity,
live
people.
Event. I know quite a few people that listen are up in the New Hampshire area, being that we talk about New Hampshire hiking a good chunk of the time. So we will be up. I understand that it's already sold out, but Reckless has a wait list, I believe you can get on. And the deal with that is that if the weather's good enough, they were going to open up the back, I believe, off the tap house over there and actually allow you to sort of sit or stand outside and sort of listen. And it sounds like there's going to be some awesome guests, should be some music, and Stomp will be DJing, I believe, and should be a great time. And we're definitely looking forward to it. I think we'll try I don't know if we'll join the hike that Reckless is doing at like Bald Mountain Artist Bluff beforehand, where we do our own thing. I got to see what we got going on that day, but yeah, it should be a fun time, and we're both going to be there. And what made me think of it was the stickers, because we will definitely be bringing some stickers with us. So
on the next episode of the PUDs Podcast, Nick brings stickers.
So exciting. So exciting. No, we got some good stuff coming up.
We'll love to connect with you guys. It's a rarity that both Nick and I are up together in New Hampshire. So, we can't wait to see you guys. We can't wait to hang out with the Slasher crew. So come on out and say hello.
Yeah, and then obviously enjoy Slasher with their awesome guests they got coming up and stuff too. So it's gonna be a great time
for sure. So
all right, man. I think that's nothing else I got for messages.
Yeah. Just like, review, subscribe. Find us on social media at PUDs Podcast. And until next time, bippity boppity, give me the zoppity.
Bye.
Dragon Ball Z.
PUDs Podcast was produced and recorded in Black Hat Studios by the Pud Boys. Find us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed, please consider leaving us a review and subscribing. Find us on social media, and we'll see you next time.